just run. So for those of you who were not able to be able to attend the Animals Committee in the last 2 days, I just want to show you, you should see on the screen now the interface of the platform. You can see on the top left corner, you have 2 buttons called Live Video and Presentation. So if you click on Live Video, you would see the Secretariat and the Chair of the Plants Committee. And also you can watch the presentation at the same time where you would see this slide. Just quickly running through the most important buttons on the right-hand side, I want to specifically insist on the messaging tab. There are 3 tabs under there. One is technical support, and we ask you to really use any questions about connection, etc. Just focus on that tab, and the participants tab are of course more for more informal exchanges, saying hello, etc. I also want to inform you that the messaging is not part of the record of the meeting. So it will be used just in 2 very specific circumstances. One is if the chair gives the floor and for technical reason that person or that party is not able to speak, then we would encourage them to write their intervention in the messaging chat under the participants tab, and it will be read out for the record. We have used for the Animals Committee, sometimes if people had problems requesting joining a working group, we accepted those through the messaging tab, but it is really important to request the floor when it is the case. Really follow the instructions of the chair. It's much simpler for everyone if you are able to express an interest of joining a working group by requesting to speak. And finally, the exception also is for those observer organizations that make statements on behalf of several organizations. We know that sometimes it takes almost as long to read out the names of your organization as the statement. So we would encourage you to just put the names of all the observer organizations signing on to the statement, and we will copy that and capture it for the summary record. So don't worry about that. To the right also, I want to show you the active user list. This basically allows you to see the participants in the room. Normally you would look around, but there you would see all the names of the people who logged in. Bottom right, for you have already tried that for those who tested, you can request to speak. Please note that you click on this button, but you will only be able to actually speak and appear on the screen once you've been accepted by the chair. So once the chair says, I give the floor to so-and-so, you will appear on the screen, and I would like to remind you to unmute yourself and to turn on your camera if you so wish. The other icon that is quite important, which is right next to the request to speak, is the make a point of order. So in, I was going to say in real life, but at least in a face-to-face meeting, you would grab your nameplate. That's only for parties, of course, and of course committee members. You would grab your nameplate, stand up and say, I have a point of order. That's the digital equivalent of it. So when you click that button, point of order, you appear on the request to speak list of the chair, and you appear on red and at the very top. So it will be very quickly visible for the chair. And finally, the last setting that is quite important, especially for those who listen to the interpretation, you can choose which interpretation booth you're listening to. You have the floor, English, French, and Spanish. So that is it for me, and I think it's 12:30, so we can start right on time. Thank you very much.
Merci, Secrétariat, pour ces indications.
I would like to thank the Secretariat for that very useful briefing. It is 11:30 in Libreville, 12:30 in Geneva. I'm therefore going to take the floor to make my opening remarks. Greetings to all of you, members of the Plants Committee, observer parties, and observers. Welcome to PC 25. This session is finally taking place. Thanks to all of you for joining in, particularly those of you for whom it's very early or very late. This 25th meeting of the Plants Committee is unusual in a number of ways. First of all, because it's a virtual meeting. I would like to thank the Secretariat for all of the hard work done in order to enable us to meet. The COVID-19 pandemic is responsible for our having to meet in this way. Let me take this opportunity to present my condolences to those members of our CITES family who have lost people. My condolences to all of you who have lost loved ones. This is an unusual meeting in another way. There is a new chair. I am that person, and there's going to be a lot of French, which is also unusual. But do not be surprised if I occasionally take the floor in Shakespeare's language, particularly when it comes to reading the terms of reference of working groups that are set up. I have my CITES mentor, Rosemary Nyam, representative of the North American region. Welcome, Rosemary, and thank you for all of your help, and thanks to all committee members for all of the work done since the last COP. It is a pleasure for me to work with you, and I would like to take this opportunity to welcome new Plant Committee members. There's another way in which this meeting is unusual. We have a challenge before us. We have 44 agenda items to deal with in three 3-hour meetings, a huge program. Clearly, we can get there if we make sure that we focus on essential points and if we stick to speaking times. 5 minutes for members of the committee, 4 minutes for observer parties, and 3 minutes for observers. I know I can count on you to respect these rules, and that means that I'll be in a position to let those who wish to take the floor do so. And I would also like to ensure that you are identified properly on the Kudo platform. For members, region followed by name and last name and first name. Others, party or organization, name and first name. For NGOs, as the Secretariat has said, taking the floor on behalf of several NGOs, please don't give the whole list of organizations. Just mention your NGO and send the list to the Secretariat. That will help us save time. As is our custom, I will give the floor first of all to committee members, then to observer parties, and then to observers. I do hope that you are all familiar with the Kudo platform. I would like to ask you to wait a couple of seconds before taking the floor, and please speak slowly for the interpreters. The interpreters would thank you for that. I would now like to wish you all the best and give the floor to the Secretary General. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Members of the Plants Committee, distinguished delegates and participants, dear colleagues and friends, it is my honor to welcome you to the first online meeting of the Plants Committee. And this first also coincides with the celebration of the 25th anniversary. Imagine, the first time that the committee met was in November 1988 and had an attendance of 31 participants. Today, we have 417 representatives of 75 parties and 106 representatives of 54 organizations. Another record, following the record attendance for the Standing Committee and Animals Committee meetings. I extend a warm welcome to the new chair of the Plants Committee, Ms. Flor Kumba, and the vice chair, Ms. Rosemary Nyam, who were both confirmed in their functions through intersessional decision-making by the Plants Committee after COP18. At COP18, we also had the pleasure to welcome new PC members for most of the regions, and they have been eager to bring their expertise to the benefit of CITES. For the next days, you will be discussing the considerable mandates that the parties have given to the Plants Committee in 2019. There is extensive documentation and many reports in front of you. The Plants Committee, the parties, and the extended CITES family have been progressing as much as possible in the implementation of the flora tasks despite the COVID-19 pandemic that has affected us all and the postponement of this meeting. It is thanks to your commitment and passion for the conservation of wild flora that you have an agenda of over 40 items, which will contribute to provide the parties with the best possible information and guidance so that CITES listed plants are sustainably traded and conserved for generations to come. In the agenda for PC25, the Plants Committee's responsibilities and tasks have been grouped under strategic, implementation, and species-specific matters. The documentation of each agenda item reflects the active collaboration between PC members and the Secretariat since May 2020 to date. Amongst the strategic matters, you will discuss relationships with CBD, IPBES, and other organizations, and progress on ongoing and new initiatives relating to CITES trees and forests. Concerning implementation matters, you will address, among others, the inclusion of African rosewood as an exceptional case under the review of the significant trade process, progress in compliance cases for Malagasy rosewoods and palisanders, and progress on an ambitious initiative to update and develop guidance on non-detriment findings that are most relevant to parties' needs. Nearly half of the PC25 agenda items fall under species-specific matters. You will focus on reviewing the way forward proposed by the chairs of the intersessional working groups on identification of timber, rosewoods, neotropical and African tree species, and medicinal and aromatic plants. The members of the Plants Committee who lead these working groups have carefully tailored the recommendations to facilitate decision-making at this meeting and pave the way towards the next conference of the parties. In matters relating to CITES-driven science, I would like to highlight discussions relating to the first CITES checklist on Dalbergia, on orchid checklists, and new guidance on the interpretation of artificial propagation provisions. Other species-specific matters concern agarwood, frankincense, and annotations for orchids and rosewood tree species. I trust you have had a chance to get acquainted with the documentation, as well as with the revised recommendations contained in the addendums of relevant items. I warmly thank the donors that entrusted the Secretariat with the funds for the implementation of the relevant decisions, as well as the excellent experts behind these reports. I wish you fruitful discussions, and as always, the Secretariat is here to support you on this new online format. Good luck and thank you. Merci, Madame Chair, Madame la Présidente.
Merci, Madame la Secrétaire.
Thank you, Madam Secretary General. We are making history here. I am a chair for the first time. This is our 25th anniversary. It's our first virtual meeting, and I am the first African to be chair. I'm feeling proud of all this. In the course of my opening statement, I asked the Secretariat to ensure that we are quorate. Our rules of procedure do lay down that we need to have a quorum. We need to ensure that we have enough people present. That is indeed the case, so I would like to call PC 25 to order. Our first agenda item is the confirmation of the election of the chair and vice chair of the Plants Committee. As it happens, we have two women as chair and vice chair. I would like to thank members of the Plants Committee for the confidence shown in me in appointing me chair of this committee, and I would like once again to thank Ms. Rosemary Nam for her support and for her commitment to working as vice chair of this committee. This brings me to agenda item 2, that is to say conflict of interest, and I give the floor to the Secretariat. You have the floor, sir.
It's going to be easier when I unmute, Madam Chair. Resolution Conf 18.2 on establishment of committees provides guidelines on conflict of interest. Conflict of interest is defined as any current financial interest which could significantly impair an individual's impartiality, objectivity, or independence in carrying out his or her duties as a member of the Plants Committee. Each member and acting member shall at the beginning of each meeting of the Plants Committee declare whether they have any financial interests that he or she considers call into question his or her impartiality, objectivity, or independence regarding any subject on the agenda for this meeting of the Plants Committee. A conflict of interest may also be identified by any credible source and brought to the attention of the chair of the committee through the Secretariat. I can inform that none has been brought forward so far, Madam Chair. If a member has any financial interest, he or she may take part in discussions, but not in the decision-making regarding the agenda item in question, nor chair the meeting or sub-meeting for the agenda item in question. To date, the Secretariat has not received any indication of conflict of interest from any member of the Plants Committee. Should any member present here have a financial interest as defined, I invite them to declare this now, so it may be recorded in the summary record of the meeting. And I'll pause here to see whether anybody is making such a declaration. We see in the request list that no such declarations are made. The Plants Committee will therefore note that no member declared a financial interest that he or she considers calls into question his or her impartiality, objectivity, or independence regarding any subject on the agenda for the meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci, Secrétariat.
Thank you, sir. We have taken note. I would now like to move on to the next agenda item, Rules of Procedure. The Rules of Procedure were amended at PC 24, held in Geneva in July 2018. And it appears in the annex to document PC 25 Doc 3, and those rules are enforced for this meeting. I would like to draw the committee's attention to INF document AC 31 PC 25 INF 1, giving some guidance with respect to the rules of procedure in the case of online meetings. If you have any questions, please do request the floor. So first of all, would any member of the committee like to take the floor? I see no requests. Observer parties? Any requests for the floor? I see none. Would any observer like to take the floor? I see no requests for the floor. The Plants Committee takes note of the rules of procedure. Our next item, the rules of procedure are adopted, clarifies the chair. The next agenda item is Agenda item 4, the adoption of the agenda and of the annotated agenda. We will take both of these items up at the same time. In the interests of time management, you will have noted that the Secretariat has amended the agenda that you have in PC 25 Doc 4 1 Rev 1, as well as the annotated agenda PC 25 4 2. And these documents will show you what the expectations are with respect to every agenda item. I would invite you to adopt the agenda and the annotated agenda. The floor is open for members of the committee. I see no requests for the floor. The floor is now open to observer parties. I see no requests for the floor. Observers now. I see no requests for the floor. The agenda and the annotated agenda, PC 25 Doc 41 Rev 1 and PC 25 Doc 42, are adopted. The next agenda item is the working program that we are to follow during this meeting of the Plants Committee. That program is available to you on the Plants Committee website. If you have any suggestions with respect to the working program, please do request the floor. Committee members? Observer parties? I see no requests for the floor from committee members. Observers? No party observers requested the floor. What about observers? I see no request for the floor. The working program is adopted. Which brings us to agenda item 6, admission of observers. I would invite the Plants Committee to take note of the list of observer bodies that were invited to participate in this meeting of the Plants Committee. The list is available in document PC 25, Doc 6. Would anyone like to take the floor? Committee members? I see no request for the floor. The floor is now open to observer parties. I see no requests. Observers now. Would anyone like to take the floor? I see no such requests. The Plants Committee takes note of the list of observers. We have now reached agenda item 7, that is to say, Plants Committee Strategic Planning for 2020-2022, COP18 to COP19. There are 3 items on this item 7. First of all, the document on resolutions and decisions directed to the Plants Committee. PC 25 Doc 7.1 was drafted by the Secretariat, and it has 2 annexes covering decisions relating to the Plants Committee. Annex 1 provides an overview of the resolutions in force that are directed to the Plants Committee or which concern the Plants Committee. Annex 2 provides a list of all of the decisions in effect that might require some contribution from the Plants Committee. The Plants Committee is invited to take note of PC 25.7.1. Committee members, the floor is open. I see no requests. Observer parties, the floor is open. Observers. Would any observers like to take the floor on this item? I see no requests for the floor. The Plants Committee takes note of PC 25.7.1. Thank you. The next agenda item is 7.2. The Plants Committee Work Plan. I am going to introduce 7.2, which I drafted. It provides you with a list of instructions addressed to the Plants Committee or which might require consultations with the Plants Committee or information presented to it. These are instructions which appear in resolutions or decisions of the COP. The document also provides the names of the leads and co-leads among Plants Committees for each one of these instructions. The Plants Committee is invited to take note of the 2020-2022 work plan, particularly the leads and co-leads whose names appear in Annexes 1 and 2 of Document 7.2. Committee members, the floor is yours. I see no requests. Observer parties, any requests for the floor? I see none. Observers. I see no requests for the floor. The Plants Committee takes note of the document. I would now like to move on to 7.3. This has to do with the preparation of the report of the Plants Committee Chair to COP19. I would like to briefly remind you of the committee's activities since the last COP. That is what was done before SC 73. As the 25th meeting of the Plants Committee was cancelled, that is the meeting that was scheduled for July 2020, the Plants Committee reviewed its work plan in the course of 2 online meetings. The purpose of these meetings was to find ways of working on decisions assigned to it. The Plants Committee considered the recommendations in document PC 25.7.1 in order to see how best to implement these decisions and to assign a lead or co-lead for each one of these recommendations. This in the context of the 2019-2020 work plan for the Plants Committee. The Plants Committee set up 6 intersessional working groups and laid down their respective terms of reference. Since there was only one Plants Committee meeting between COPs 18 and 19, the Plants Committee felt that it was useful to have informal consultations on parts of its work plan in order to prepare for the discussions and decisions to be taken in the course of PC 25, this meeting. Certain members of the Plants Committee were appointed to deal with specific items to be addressed in informal consultations, and the conclusions of these informal consultations appear in addenda documents. These points concern Appendix 1 species, NDFs, and taxa producing Agarwood or annotation #15. Finally, with respect to new species country combinations in the context of the RST, it was decided that no new case would be selected to be considered in online meetings, with one exception, the RST of Pterocarpus erinaceus for all range states. This exception is a result of a standing committee recommendation and a complementary directive from the COP, that is Decision 1892, support for the fight against crime linked to wildlife species in West and Central Africa. This is to be found in document PC 25-15-5. In the course of this meeting, we will be considering the document to PC 25-15-5, and we will be seeing which, if any, species of Pterocarpus erinaceus should be included at stage 2 of the RST. I would invite you to take note of this oral report. Committee members, do you have any comments or questions? The floor is open. I see none. Observer parties, any requests for the floor? I see no requests. Observers now. The floor is yours. I see no requests for the floor. The Plants Committee takes note of the chair's oral report. Thank you. This brings us to our next agenda item. That is agenda item 15, review of significant trade in specimens of Appendix 2 species, Resolution Conf 12.8, Rev Cop 18. PC 25 Doc 15.1 and its addendum were drafted by the Secretariat. This brings the committee up to date with respect to the RST situation. We have an updated overview of all cases since PC 24 that you have in Annex 1, along with the notes on those studies that have been carried out since the last PC meeting. There's a summary of all of the combinations of range states and plant species which are subject to a recommendation to suspend trade in the RST context, or that are still underway, are in Annex 2 of the document. The document and its addendum also provide an overview of the implementation of Decision 1708, Rev Cop 18, to 17110, Rev Cop 18, on the development of a tracking and tracing database for RST, as well as a user-friendly guide to RST. We have in the addendum the agreements with UNICC regarding the development and maintenance of the system and its ongoing population, with pertinent documentation provided by UNEP WCMC. The committee should note that the database for tracking and management of RST was completed in October of 2020. That database will be published when all documents have been added to the database with the guide and the training module. The Plans Committee is invited to take note of document PC 2515.1 and its addendum. I would now like to invite members of the committee to take the floor to make any comments they might wish to. All yours.
Maintenant, aux parties ayant statut.
Now I would like to offer the floor to observer parties. No request for the floor. Now the floor is open for observers. No request for the floor. So the Plants Committee notes document PC25 Doc 15.1 and its addendum, and has also welcomed the progress made in the implementation of Decision 17.108 on the development of the Tracking and Management System database. Now, the next item on the agenda, we have items 15.2 and 15.3. 15.2 is on species selected following COP16, and 15.3 species selected following COP17. I will present these two items together. Before the 73rd meeting of the Standing Committee, the Secretariat produced document SC 2020 Inf 11, which provides details of the 77 species country combinations for 33 parties in total, which are currently in the review of significant trade. 62 of these cover animals and 14 plants. The Secretariat has indicated that all the current cases have been subject to recommendations by the Animals Committee or the Plants Committee, with the deadlines that have now passed. The Secretariat has written to all the parties concerned by the RST process, that is to say cases that are underway and those which are subject to a recommendation of a suspension of trade, and they were invited to provide any new information that was relevant to the Secretariat by the 30th of November 2020, so that it could be examined between the sessions by the Secretariat and then by the members of the Animals Committee or the Plants Committee through the relevant chair. To date, new information on plants cases which are underway were submitted by the following countries: Cameroon, Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, the Democratic Republic of Laos, Nepal, Nicaragua, and Paraguay. The Secretariat is currently evaluating all of the cases underway in order to determine if the recommendations of the RST had been implemented by the state of the range concerned, and will consult members of the Plants Committee in order to see that all the cases will be reviewed by the next Standing Committee. The Secretariat would like to take this opportunity to invite all parties which are subject to a RST underway to submit urgently all information so that it can be examined at the next meeting of the Standing Committee. The Plants Committee is invited to take note of this oral report. Members of the committee, the floor is yours. I see no request for the floor. I now give the floor to observer parties. I see no request for the floor. Observers, non-party observers. I see no request for the floor. So the Plants Committee notes the oral report of the Chair on items 15.2 and 15.3. Now we will move to the next item on our agenda, 15.4, species selected after COP18. The Secretariat's document presents the reports drafted by the United Nations Programme and UNEP WCMC in the implementation of the provisions of paragraph 1A of Resolution 12.8 Rev COP18, review of significant trade of species listed in Appendix 2. The reports provide a summary of the statistics from the annual reports of the CITES trade database, which is in Annex 1, and an in-depth analysis which will look at the selection of the species country combinations in Annex 2. Annexes 1 and 2 were produced at the beginning of 2020 on the basis of data from 2014 to 2018. The Plants Committee is invited to take note of document PC 25, Doc 15.4, and to note that the selection of new species country combinations will be postponed until the next ordinary session of the committee following COP19. Members of the committee, you have the floor if you have any comments or questions. I see no request for the floor. Do any parties with the status of observers, would any of them like to request the floor? No request for the floor. Observers, I open the floor if you have any comments or questions. I see no request for the floor. The Plants Committee takes note of document PC 25 Doc 15.4 and notes that the selection of new species country combinations will be postponed until the first ordinary session of the Plants Committee following COP19. The next item This is item 15.5 on the inclusion of Pterocarpus erinaceus from all range states in the review of significant trade, decision 18.92, paragraph B. I will present this document. The document 15.5 and its addendum were prepared by the Secretariat and present the inclusion in the RST of Pterocarpus erinaceus from all range states as an exceptional case within the framework of stage 1 of the process of RST related to resolution COF 12.8 Rev COF 18 on the review of significant trade. Annexed to document PC 2515.5 is the report that was requested by the Secretariat and produced by UNEP WCMC on international trade in the species in each of the 17 countries, range states of Pterocarpus erinaceus, a report which includes a classification, a provisional classification of states according to the following categories: action needed, unknown status, and less concern. In implementing the provisions of paragraph 1E of resolution CONF 12.8 Rev COP 18. The addendum presents additional information which was drawn to the attention of the Secretariat since the publication of document PC 25.15.5 in 2020 on the range states of Pterocarpus erinaceus on the following states: Benin, Guinea-Bissau, Nigeria, and Senegal. Following the debate, I would invite the committee, the Plants Committee, in accordance with the revised recommendations in paragraph 13 of the addendum, to examine document PC 25.15.5 and its addendum, and if necessary to decide which combination of Pterocarpus erinaceus and country should be included in phase 2 of the significant trade process. Before I open the floor, I'd like to inform you that I intend to establish a working group on this item. You have the floor, and I will start by inviting members of the committee. No request for the floor. Observer parties, you have the floor. China, you have the floor.
Vous avez la parole.
The floor is yours.
Can you hear me? Thank you, Madam Chair. China appreciates the work of the Secretary.
Désolé, Chine.
I beg your pardon, China, we cannot hear you. We cannot hear you at the moment.
Traducteur, interprète, s'il vous plaît.
Interpreters, can you hear the intervention by China? Madam Chair, the interpreter in English booth says we cannot hear at all.
Ouais, c'est bien ce qui me semblait. Donc je pense que
I thought that was the case. I think they are trying to solve the technical problems there. I suggest that whilst China finds a solution, that we request that the intervention be submitted to the Secretariat via the message section.
Oops, sorry. Can you hear us? Do you hear us? Oops. Can you hear us? Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. China appreciates the work of the Secretariat and the UNEP-WCMC on the IST. Under the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, the significant progress of IST is benefited from all the parties' efforts. China has a concern on the provisional categorization of Burkina Faso as less concern. In Annex 1 to PC 25, document 15.5, the executive summary, table 1.2 on page 5, neither the CITES annual reports from Burkina Faso from the year of 2017 and 2018, nor response to the Secretary's consultation relating to the IST were received. But exporting of the specimens exists. In this case, it is unreasonable to categorize Burkina Faso as less concerned by reason of no legal international trade is anticipated due to a ban on harvest and trade at the national level. Besides, as far as is concerned, China has received applications to import specimens of Pterocarpus erinaceus from Burkina Faso, which apparently indicates that the national ban isn't put in place. Therefore, China suggests that a recategorization of this combination is probably needed. For Burkina Faso, from less concern to action is needed. Please take it into consideration. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci, la Chine.
Thank you, China. I take note of your statement. Maybe I could now give the floor to Burkina if they are present. Secretariat, could you tell me if Burkina is participating in the meeting and could reply to China?
Je pense que non, Madame la Présidente.
Madam Chair, I don't think Burkina Faso is present at the meeting. But maybe they could participate in the future working group? Yes, I wanted to provide them with a right to reply. I now I open up the floor to observer parties, unless there's another party as observer that would like to take the floor. Observers. No request for the floor. So, I would like to establish a working group, but I would very much like to say that the intervention from China will be taken into account within the framework of the working group that will be established.
Read in English to read the mandate of the working group that I am establishing. Okay. I propose the establishment of a working group shared by the representative of North America Mrs. Rosemary Niam, with the following mandate. A. Consider document 25 doc 50.5 and its annex report of Pterocarpus erinaceus in all range states and the addendum. And B, decide which, if any, Pterocarpus erinaceus country combination should be included in stage 2 of the review of significant traits process. Okay. Concernant la composition du groupe de travail.
So, on the composition of the working group, I'd like to ask for confirmation from the representative of North America if they will chair the working group. You have the floor, madam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, I would be pleased to chair this working group. And let me also express my heartfelt thanks to you for doing a tremendous job and being our chair. Thank you.
Thank you to the representative of North America. We haven't yet finished our work. We'll see how it is at the end. Then maybe I can be congratulated. But thank you for your confirmation that you will chair the working group. I would now invite members of the committee to indicate their interest in joining this working group by requesting the floor. So it is members of the committee that I am requesting. So if we could give the floor to members of the committee first, please. So I see we have Austria. Ou laquelle? Are you requesting the floor so that you can become a member of the working group, or do you need to speak? Is it to be a member?
Okay, so donc dans ces conditions.
So I don't need to give you the floor. We're just going to draw up the list by looking at who requests the floor. I haven't got as far as the observers yet. I'm trying to draw up the list of members of the committee who would like to join. Then we will ask parties who have an observer status if you could please express your interest in participating in the working group by requesting the floor, just so that I can draw up a list of who would like to join the working group. So we have Germany, the United States, China, United Kingdom, China. I see that you have requested and then you've withdrawn. Secretariat, have you been able to note the list of members and parties? I have 5 on my list.
There are indeed 5 parties that expressed an interest in joining the working group by clicking the request for the floor, request to speak button. At the moment, none of the PC members have announced their wish to be part of this working group. So perhaps you can ask again which Plants Committee members, and I assume that Rosemary Nam would be, that you already asked to chair this working group, would have to express specifically her interest. So please go back to your Plants Committee members and ask again that everybody, all the members that wish to be part of this particular working group, click the button request the floor, and then we will have a good list of which members also will want to join this working group. But it's right, there are for the moment 5 parties.
Merci, Secrétaire.
Thank you, Secretariat, for reminding us. So I would like to invite members of the committee, including the chair of this working group, to please express their interest in taking part in the working group by requesting the floor so that we can draw up a list. Now I have the representative for North America who will chair the group. And do we have any other members of the Plants Committee who would like to take part in this working group? And could they please request express their interest by requesting the floor? So, Secretariat, we have no other requests for the floor. So we have 6 members of this working group with Plants Committee members and parties that are observers, and so it means we can have a maximum of 6 observers as members of this working group. So observers, those who are interested, please request the floor just so that we can draw up a list, and remembering that we have a maximum number of 6. So thank you for having expressed your interest. So we have SSN twice, EIO, SSN 1 person has left, so we've got 1, WWF, UNEP, WCMC, and CIN. So that makes a group of 6 observers. So the composition of the working group is as follows: the representative of the North America region, Austria, Germany, United States of America, China, United Kingdom, SSN, EIA, Traffic, WWF, are they there, and CIEN. WWF had expressed their interest, but I can't see them on the list anymore. But I think, Secretariat, is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, I think you read out the participant list and all the organizations, parties, and members of the Plants Committee that expressed an interest in joining it. Perhaps I can take the floor for a short minute right now, to talk about in-session working groups, because I think you're going to have more than one in-session working group will be created today. They will deliberate. Most of your in-session working groups are going to deliberate next week from 7 to 11 June. They are expected to have completed their mandates by Friday, 11 June. The week of 14 to 18 June will be used to translate and publish in the 3 languages all the working group reports. Something you can see in the working program. The Animals and Plants Committees jointly reconvene on 21 June to discuss the outputs of the joint working groups. And on Wednesday, 23 June, the Plants Committee will discuss the reports from the Plants Committee working groups, including the one you just created. Depending on the mandate of the working group, the group may decide to conduct its work via email or meet virtually using a platform such as Zoom or MS Teams. The Secretariat will liaise with the chair of the in-session working group, in this case Rosemary Nam, to help determine how to best organize her work. Once the working group membership and its mandate are confirmed, the CITES Secretariat will facilitate the working group by scheduling any Zoom or MS Team meetings. We will create a schedule for these different working groups. We will try to avoid overlaps with other working groups from the Animals Committee and joint ACPC working groups as much as possible. At least one and usually 2 or 3 members of the Secretariat will help working groups in their efforts next week. And we will share a template for the working group reports prior to 7 June. Thank you, Madam Chair, for these clarifications that I wanted to make at the first intervention, the first time you created a working group. Thank you. And these approaches will apply to all the working groups that you will establish. Thank you.
Merci, Secrétariat. Je pense que...
Thank you, Secretariat. I think it was important that we have this reminder for all of us. I just have a minor concern on the composition of the group. I would like to once more request that range states, countries, for Pterocarpus erinaceus should express their interest, because we do not have any range state country, and countries which have observer status, parties which have observer status and which are range states. So would you like to express your interest in taking part in this group? You have the floor. If you can express your interest by requesting the floor so that we can add you to the list. Okay, I see no request for the floor. So, as the Secretariat has said, the information on the electronic methods of work and the dates for meetings will be provided when possible. So I now close this item. We will now move on to the next item, which is guidance on the term artificially propagated, and I would like to give the floor to the Secretariat.
We moved on according to the working group to document PC25, Doc 22, and its addendum. It outlines progress in the implementation of Decision 18178 and includes draft guidance on the term artificially propagated, which the Secretariat commissioned UNEP WCMC to develop. Decision 18178 directs the Secretariat to, after review and revision by the Plants Committee, publish the final guidance on the CITES website if so directed by the Plants Committee. The Plants Committee could be invited to establish an in-session working group to review the draft guidance, agree on the best way to publish a consolidated version of the guidance, and also consider the draft decisions that the Secretariat proposes in paragraph 5 of the addendum to develop guidance to cover all other terms in the appendices that relate to artificial propagation of plants. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that introduction, Secretariat. Before giving committee members and observers, as well as observer organizations, the floor, I would like to, as you suggest, Secretariat, to remind you that I intend to set up a working group on this item. I would now like to give the floor to committee members so I can hear from them on this agenda item. You have the floor, members of the committee.
Pas de demande de parole.
I see no requests for the floor. The floor is now open for observer parties to give their views on this item. You have the floor. I see no requests. I would now like to give the floor to observers. I see no request for the floor.
For the establishment of an in-session working group chaired by the representative of Oceania, Mr. Damian Riley, with the following mandate. A. Review and, if appropriate, revise the draft guidance in the annex to the addendum to document PC25-22. B. Agree on the best way to publish a consolidated version of the guidance on terms relating to artificially propagated, including consider incorporating it in a new edition of the publication, a guide to the application of CITES source codes. C. Consider the draft decision in paragraph 5 of this addendum. And D. Report its recommendation to the committee. Tel est le mandat.
Those are the that is the mandate of the working group to be set up. Before asking who would like to join the work of the working group, I would like to ask the representative of Oceania if he is willing to chair the working group. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and congratulations on your appointment. Yes, I'm very happy to chair this working group.
Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for confirming that you will chair the working group. I would now like to ask committee members to indicate whether they would like to join this working group by requesting the floor, as the chair of the working group has just done. Please request the floor if you would like to be members of the working group. Members of the committee, please.
Okay. Ok, donc secrétariat, nous avons
Secretariat, we have the chair of the working group, who's a member of the Plants Committee, who has shown his interest. Could I ask you to clear the request for the floor? Let me invite observer parties to request the floor in order to indicate that they would like to join the working group. I see Kenya, Georgia, the United States, Thailand, Germany, the Republic of Korea, the United Kingdom, Canada, Ireland, Germany again, Indonesia, Chile, and China. That means that we have a total of 11 committee members. I think we have a total of 13, says the Secretariat. Okay, 13 then. Would any other parties like to join the working group? No? In that case, let's please remove the request for the floor. Let me invite observers to indicate by requesting the floor if they would like to join this working group. I see 6 requests for the floor. UNEP WCMC, Forest-Based Solution, Traffic, HSI, Ciel, International Wood Products Association, IUCN, I think we have the right numbers, do we not? Yes, we do. Thank you. I would like to thank all those who have expressed interest in participating in the work of this working group. The chair of the working group will be in touch with you in order to talk to you about working methods and confirm the meeting dates. We can now close our consideration of this agenda item, which brings us to agenda item 23. Specimens grown from wild collected seeds or spores that are deemed to be artificially propagated. I would like to give the floor to the Secretariat.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Document 23 and its addendum outline progress with the implementation of decisions 18178 to 18181. The addendum includes a report that the Secretariat commissioned to UNEP WCMC on specimens grown from wild collected seeds or spores that are deemed to be artificially propagated. Its main finding is that there seems to be only one country implementing the exemptions defined in paragraph 4 of Resolution Conf 1111 Ref COP 18 on trade in plants, and this for a single species. There are no adverse effects recorded on the conservation of the species concerned. The report therefore recommends to maintain paragraph 4 of Resolution Conf 1111 on trade in plants as is. The Secretariat presents 4 recommendations for the Plants Committee's recommendation in paragraph 5 of the addendum. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I would now like to invite members of the Plants Committee to give their views on this item. Plants Committee members, any views on this? I see no requests for the floor. I would now like to turn to observer parties. The floor is yours if you have any views to express on this agenda item. Mexico, you have the floor. To be followed by China. Mexico, please. Thank you, Madam. The interpreter would point out that the Mexican sound is very poor. Apologies. I do apologize. Let me get a bit closer to the microphone, says the speaker. We consider that the benefits for conservation of the populations concerned, the speaker apologizes, we're talking about Appendix 1 listed species that have covered by para 4 of Resolution Conf 1111 enjoy many more benefits than adverse effects. This has to do with illegal trade, which is ongoing. Mexico does not think it's necessary to amend paragraph 4 of Conf 1111 on the basis of the results that we have heard with respect to this paragraph. What we do think would be appropriate further down the line is to, based on the question of artificially propagated covered in the annex to the addendum to the previous document. The speaker's sound has been cut. We could then be talking about artificially propagated species code Y, and that would mean that the exemption would not be necessary. Thank you, Madam. I would like to thank Mexico. The sound was not always clear, Madam. Might it be possible for you to post your statement in the messages? Before moving on to the next speaker, I simply wish to say the following. It is my intention to set up a working group on this agenda item 23. So do bear that in mind when you take the floor. The next speaker on my list is China. China, you have the floor.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. China appreciates colleagues in the Plants Committee, the Secretary, and UNEP WSMC for their excellent work in completing the report. The conclusions and findings meet the requirements of Decision 18179 and provide inspiration for plant conservation and compliance. On the basis of this report, China supports the maintaining of paragraph 4 of Resolution 1111. Furthermore, we would like to remind you that the methodology and outputs of this report are useful and can be referred to the item 10, the Appendix 1 listed species, and would help us to, to talking about this item. That's all.
Merci.
Thank you, China. I would now like to give the floor to Indonesia. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Indonesia considers that any amendment to paragraph 4 resolution conversion 11.11 is not necessary. If any problem arises in some cases, we should look at the implementation and enforcement of the resolution first. Thank you.
Thank you, Indonesia. I would now like to give the floor to Peru. You have the floor. Greetings from Peru. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is the first time we've taken the floor. We would like to take this opportunity to congratulate you, Madam, on the able way in which you're chairing these proceedings. With respect to this document, we would tend to favor the recommendations, particularly from a Peruvian point of view. We do think that this is helpful, particularly with respect to some of the species that we have to deal with. We certainly would support this document, and if there is to be a working group, we would be interested in participating. Thank you.
Merci, Peru.
Thank you, Peru. Parties, do please request the floor if you have a different point of view to express. Parties, observer parties, you have the floor. Okay. I would now like to invite observers to take the floor. I do apologize. Chile. Chile has requested the floor. You have the floor.
Chile avait demandé la parole.
Chile had requested the floor. Was that in error? Chile, would you like to take the floor? Let me turn to Plants Committee members. Are there any requests for the floor in the light of what observer parties have had to say? Let me give you a minute to request the floor if you would like to. I see no request for the floor. So I now am going to open the floor to observers. You have the floor on agenda item 23.
Pas de demande de parole.
I see no requests for the floor. As I said earlier, it is my intention to set up a working group. Peru has already expressed interest in joining that group.
The establishment of a working group chaired by the representative of Oceania, Mr. Damian Wiley, with the following mandate. A. Review the implementation of paragraph 4 of resolution conf 1111 Rev Cop 18. B. Consider conservation benefits to wide population and any adverse effects on the conservation of Appendix 1 species that have been subject to the implementation of paragraph 4. C. On the basis of the above, consider the pertinence of changing paragraph 4 of resolution conf 11.11 Rev Cop 18 and draft possible editorial amendments to improve its clarity. D. Report its recommendation to the committee. Voici le mandat.
I have just read you the mandate of the proposed working group to deal with agenda item 23. Could I ask the representative of Oceania if he's willing to chair the working group? You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to chair this working group.
Merci.
Thank you for your confirmation. So you have agreed to chair the working group. I would now like to invite Plants Committee members to let me know if they would like to join the working group. Do so please by requesting the floor.
Merci aux représentants.
I would like to thank Oceania. Could I ask if other Plants Committee members would like to join the working group on agenda item 23? Please request the floor if you would like to. I don't see any requests for the floor. Could I ask for a hand from the Secretariat? I see a request for the floor, but I can't identify the member. Malaysia, it seems. Malaysia. Very well.
Manifestez votre intérêt.
Now, committee members, we've heard from you. Let me now move on to observer parties. Please request the floor if you would like to join this working group. Okay, let me read out who has joined. Malaysia, South Africa, the UK, the representative for Europe, Thailand, the United States, Guatemala, Chile, Mexico, Indonesia, China. Let me ask Peru if they are still interested in participating in the working group, which is what Peru said when they made their statement. Peru, would you like to join the working group? Thank you. Peru is to be added to the list. Secretary, could I ask you to let me know how many members we have for this working group?
Members and parties, Madam Chair. 13.
Merci, Secrétariat.
Thank you. There are 13 members of the Plants Committee who would like to join this working group. That means that 13 observers at most would be able to join the working group. I would like to ask you to let me know if you'd be interested in joining the working group by requesting the floor.
nous avons 3 observateurs.
We have 3 observers on this working group. UNEP WCMC, SSN, and traffic. Secretariat, could you read out the makeup of this working group?
So we have the representative of Oceania, which agreed to be chairing this working group. Malaysia, United Kingdom, Thailand, USA. The representative of Europe on the Plants Committee. South Africa, Thailand, Chile, Mexico, Indonesia, Chile, and Peru. And then we have 3 observer organizations, SSN, Traffic, and UNEP WCMC. And Guatemala, I forgot Guatemala.
The chair's microphone is muted. Apologies. I'm setting a poor example, says the chair. As I was saying, I would like to thank you, but first of all, I have a request for the floor from the representative of Africa. Is this a request for the floor or an indication that you would like to join the working group? Could you please give the representative for Africa the floor? Thank you.
Vous m'entendez? Allô?
Can you hear me? Asks the speaker. Thank you. I do apologize. I've been having connection problems. Fortunately, I've been able to sort them out. I simply wish to confirm that we would like to join the working group. Thank you and congratulations, Madam. We were not present when you were elected, but we wish you every success. I would like to thank the representative for Africa. So you have confirmed that you will participate in the work of this working group, which is to deal with a working group on wild collected seeds or spores. Yes, indeed, that's a matter of great importance to us. Thank you, sir. The representative for Africa will join this working group. I would like to thank all those who have joined the working group. The chair will ensure that everything goes smoothly. I would now like to declare that we have closed our discussion on this item, which brings me to the next one. That is Agarwood producing taxa, and on
La parole.
Chair, document PC25.24 and its addendum outline progress on the implementation of decisions 18203 and 18204 on Agarwood. Based on consultations with the Plants Committee and with relevant parties, the current provisions in Resolution Conf 16.10 on implementation of the Convention for Agarwood producing taxa are considered for the most part to be adequate. But opinions seem to differ as to whether the newly adopted source code Y for assistant production should replace the terminology for artificially propagated agarwood in paragraph 3 of Resolution 16.10. In the light of these discussions, you will find 4 recommendations in paragraph 7 of the addendum, paragraph 8, of the addendum, for the consideration of the Plants Committee. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci.
Thank you, Secretariat, for that introduction. Before I open the floor to the Plants Committee members, the observer parties and observers, I would like to inform you that I intend to establish a working group on this item of the agenda. I now give the floor to members of the Plants Committee so we can hear their views on the potential revisions of Resolution 1610. So I open up the floor for Plants Committee members. Right, I now give the floor to the representative of Asia. You have the floor.
Okay. Good afternoon, good morning, and evening to all delegation. And thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Chair and Secretariat for organizing and facilitating this meeting. On behalf of Asia representative, we would like to support the recommendation from the Secretariat regarding on the disagreement on the replacement of source code A with the new source code Y. And we support also for the disagreement and other recommendation. We support the working group. Thank you.
Thank you to the representative of Asia. I would like to know if any other members of the Plants Committee would like to request the floor or express their point of view on what has been said and what Asia has just said. No requests for the floor, so now I would like to open the floor to observer parties if they would like to express their viewpoint. Observer parties. You have the floor. I see no request for the floor, so I now open the floor to observers if they wish to take the floor. The floor is open. I see no request for the floor. Now in English.
Of a working group chaired by the alternate representative of Asia, Mrs. Yan Zhang, with the following mandate. A. Formulate recommendation regarding potential revisions to Resolution Conf 1610 on implementation of the Convention for Agarwood production taxa, as well as the Agarwood glossary and the Agarwood NDF guidance. And B. Report its recommendation to the committee. Je viens de vous faire.
So, I have just read the mandate for the working group that I intend to establish for this agenda item, which is item 24. And so now I would like to have confirmation from the representative of Asia that they will chair the proposed working group. The alternate for Asia, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, thank you for your trust, and I will try my best to help you all.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you. I know you will do your very best and even more to chair this working group. I now would like to invite members of the committee to express their interest in participating in the working group by requesting the floor so that I can draw up the list of members. For this working group. Committee members. On the working group for Agarwood producing taxa. So for now, the floor is open for members of the Plants Committee. So now we open the floor for observer parties to express an interest. So we have Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia. Thank you for having changed the name there. UK, Germany, Georgia, India, Indonesia, United States of America, Canada, and China. Are there any other member states who would like to join the group? If I've counted correctly, I have 12, including the representative of Asia. Thank you. Thank you to the Secretariat for having cleared that list. Now, I would like to request and invite other observers to indicate their interest in joining this working group. Thank you. So, we have UNEP, WCMC, WWF, 3 observers in total. Thank you for having expressed your interest. So the working group composition will be the representative of Asia, a member of the Plants Committee, Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, United Kingdom, Germany, Georgia, India, Indonesia, USA, Canada, China. I hope I've not left anyone out. And if I have done so, please get in contact through the message chat box so that the Secretariat can take note. And I forgot UNEP, WCMC, HSE and WWF. I think I've now got everyone on the list. So, as we've said for the other working group, the chair of the group will give you enough time and warn you of the ways of the working methods and the dates and times. So, I now close consideration of this item. I now move on to the next item, which is Boswellia trees. And I'd like to give the floor to the representative of the Europe region so that they may introduce this document. You have the floor, ma'am.
Madame la
representative for the Europe region, are you in a position to present this item?
Est-ce que il y aurait peut-être un souci technique?
Is there maybe a technical issue for the representative from Europe, Ursula? I cannot see any request for the floor. Secretariat, should I wait a little longer or should I present the document? It may be a good idea, says the Secretariat, if we check with the Kudo technical team if there is an issue with connection. Chair, Kudo, operators, is there a problem with connection for Ursula, the representative from Europe? This morning before the start of the meeting there were a few concerns, but I thought they had been resolved before the meeting started.
We can perhaps assist by reading out the intervention that the representative of Europe was intended to make.
Okay, Secretariat, si vous pouvez.
Yes, in that case, Secretariat, would you mind reading it?
Which is now said by Ursula, not by me. The document by the Secretariat and its addendum by the regional representative of Europe outlined the progress achieved in the implementation of Decision 18205 to 18208. They also refer to the substantial amount of information that was received in response to notification 2020-056 issued as per the Decision 18205 and presented in Information Document PC25 INF3. Information Document PC25 INF7 and 18 present responses of India and Oman, which were received after the publication of PC 25 INF 3. As you can see, this questionnaire on Boswellia has attracted considerable interest, Madam Chair. Depending on the outcome of the discussions, the Plants Committee could be invited to establish a working group with the mandate to discuss key gaps in knowledge and propose recommendations for further efforts to address the sustainable use and conservation of Boswellia species, including whether any of the Boswellia species could meet the criteria for listing in the appendices of CITES, and to consider the pertinence of extending or revising decisions 18205 and 208 based on the progress achieved. I would like to remind Madam Chair that the Plants Committee is expected to report the outcomes of its work to COP19. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci, Secrétariat, représente par le...
Thank you to the Secretariat. Speaking on behalf of the representative of the Europe region, I have taken note of what was presented, and I do indeed intend to establish. We have the representative of Europe online. You can take the floor, of course. The floor is open for you if you would like to add anything.
Et ça me fait plaisir de vous voir connecté.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to see you.
Hello, can you hear me now? Okay, so I'm so sorry. I try again to connect my camera, and okay, I'm so sorry. It's really difficult sometimes to connect, even when we are in Europe. So, can you hear me? Yeah, I have a very bad internet connection here in the office. I'm so sorry, but I think Tom already said the important things. I don't know if I should add something, but if there is a working group I would like to chair, I would be glad to chair this working group, just that you know that. Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you to the representative of Europe. Indeed, Tom has read your presentation, and I'm sorry to hear you have a poor connection. Up until now, mine seems to be holding out. As it has been said, I intend to set up a working group on this agenda item. So I would like to open the floor to Plants Committee members so that they may express their points of view. Members of the committee, the floor is yours. Right. We have the representative of Africa region. The floor is yours.
Le représentant de l'Afrique, votre...
Representative for Africa, your microphone does not appear to be switched on. That's it. The floor is yours. Thank you. I would like to confirm that we would like to be part of this working group because this species group interests us a great deal. Thank you. The chair's microphone doesn't appear to be open. The chair's microphone does not appear to be switched on. My apologies, says the chair. I was saying that at this point we would like to gather various points of view from participants. So please do not forget to express your interest in joining the group when we draw up the list of members. Thank you. Thank you, says the representative of Africa. Now I would like to open the floor to members of the Plants Committee to express their opinions on what has been presented by the Secretariat and the Europe representative. The floor is open. All right. So now, are there any members of the Plants Committee who wish to speak? I see no requests for the floor. Now I would like to open the floor for any observer parties who would like to comment. The floor is yours. Now, any observer parties or any observers? And no request. Now I open the floor for any other observers. Oh, okay, I'll come back now, says the chair, to India. India, you have the floor.
L'Inde, vous avez demandé...
India, you requested the floor. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We would like to point out that India has submitted a response to the questionnaire on Boswellia trees, and this has been included separately in document PC25 Inf 7. This information has not been considered for the purpose of the Secretariat's analysis in the annexes to document PC25.25 due to its late submission. We request that the document be considered by any in-session working group that is formed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, India. That is precisely the suggestion that I wanted to make when we set up the working group. So, Madam Chair of the working group, please take into account this document when you have the working group. I see that China had expressed an interest, a request for the floor. Was that, would you like the floor, China, or could it have been a mistake? So, any other observer parties? The floor is still open if you would like to take the floor. Oman, the floor is yours.
Of the document. So we requesting if the question that submitted by Oman to be discussed in the in-sessional or the group that will be formulated later. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Merci, Oman, pour votre...
Thank you, Oman. Are there any other requests for the floor from parties? No request for the floor from observer parties. Now, are there any other observers who wish to take the floor or comment? The floor is open. Once more, I would like to invite members of the Plants Committee, observer parties, or any other observers to request the floor if they have a comment. So, I conclude that everything is in order. I'll switch to
the establishment of an in-session working group chaired by the representative of Europe, Mrs. Ursula Moser, with the following mandate. A. Consider the information in document PC25 Doc 25 and its annexes, and the present addendum and its annexes. B. Discuss gaps in knowledge and propose recommendations for further effort to address the sustainable use and conservation of these species, including whether any Boswellia species could meet the criteria for listing in the appendices. C. Consider the pertinence of extending or revising decision 18205 to 18208 and report its recommendation to the committee. Voici.
So that is the mandate for this working group, which is established. We heard when the representative for Europe spoke that they are willing to chair this working group, and I'd like to thank you once more. Now I'd like to invite members of the Plants Committee to indicate their interest in joining this working group by requesting the floor. Committee members. So we have the representative for Africa, Beatrice, as a member, and the representative for Africa, Professor Merman. We have China. Any other members of the committee? If you request the floor to show your interest. Thank you to those who have expressed their interest from the Plants Committee to join the working group. Now we will start the new list, and we'd invite observer parties to express their interest in joining the group. Germany, United Kingdom, Korea, India, United States of America, Oman, Ireland, and Kenya, China, So I'll repeat for the Secretariat. Germany, UK, Korea, India, USA, Oman, Kenya, and China. Thank you. If we could clear the list and
You include also the PC representative for Europe, which hasn't manifested her interest in joining the group in the chat. But as you appointed her chair, we take it that she's also going to be a member of the working group. Thank you.
D'accord.
thank you, Secretariat, for that reminder. Now we open the list for observers, and remembering that we have a maximum of 12 spaces for observers. Traffic, SSN, forest trends, HAPA, WWF, IFEAT, RBGE, so, Secretariat, there is enough room for all of these participants in the working group that has been established. The list can be cleared now. So,
je vais lire la composition du groupe pour rappel, et si jamais
I will read out the list of the group, and if I've forgotten anyone, please bear with me and send a message in the chat to the Secretariat. So we have the representative for Europe as chair, the representative for Africa, we have a representative of China and another member from the Africa region. So this is for the from the Plants Committee. Then in terms of observer parties, we have Germany, United Kingdom, Korea, India, USA, Oman, Ireland, Kenya, China, and Europe. And for the observers, we have SSN, Forest Trends, HPA, FAR, and RGBE. So,
la présidente.
So, as always, the chair of the working group will be in touch with you about how your online meetings are going to be organized and what the schedule is, which concludes our consideration of this agenda item. I would like to suggest that we move on to the next item, which is Item 12, towards a resolution on CITES and forests. I would like to give the floor to the Secretariat on item 12.
The document and its addendum by the Secretariat propose the development of a new resolution on CITES and forests. The resolution would provide strategic guidance on ensuring coherence between CITES and the international governance framework on forests, and guidance on increasing visibility and resource mobilization in support of the Convention's role in ensuring the long-term conservation of species of wild fauna and flora occurring in and dependent upon forests. The addendum provides updates on preliminary feedback that we have received, the Secretary received from the Plants Committee membership. Madam Chair, as proposed in paragraph 25 of the addendum, paragraph 27 of the addendum, we invite the committee to consider the value of developing a new resolution on CITES and forests. Should it be developed, advise on the structure over its operative part, and provide any additional recommendation for the Secretariat to consider should it bring a draft resolution on CITES and forest forward for consideration by the Standing Committee and the Conference of the Parties. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I would like to thank the Secretariat for having introduced this item. Before I open the floor, I would like to inform you that we are going to have a working group on this item. The floor is now open for members of the committee. Any member who would like to express a view, please request the floor. Cambodia has requested the floor.
Vous avez la parole.
Cambodia, you have the floor.
Cambodge, avez-vous un problème technique?
Could I ask if Cambodia has come up against some technical difficulties?
Ok. En attendant,
while waiting for these problems to be solved, I would suggest that North America be given the floor, the North American region.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The North American region commends the Secretariat for preparing the document towards a resolution on CITES and forests and its addendum, and recognizes the importance of collaboration by CITES with organizations having substantial programs on forests. However, we are uncertain that the objectives of a resolution on forests have been outlined fully by the Secretariat, and we would welcome further rationale for taking on additional work at this time. Moreover, we believe that the discussion of this topic requires the deliberative and direct input of the Plants Committee in order to fully assess the technical and scientific implications such a resolution may have. With this in mind, the North American region proposes that rather than proceeding directly to consideration of a resolution, it would be preferable for a decision to be drafted by the proposed in-session working group on this agenda item for consideration by COP19, directing the Plants Committee to assess the value of combining strategic tree-related considerations into a single overarching resolution, and to prepare an overview of this issue from a technical and scientific perspective for consideration by COP20. We believe that this approach will facilitate the Plants Committee's ability to engage in discussion and provide clarity on the operational implications of a resolution on forests. We also believe that any draft decision submitted on this issue to COP19 should include instructions to the Standing Committee to engage in discussion on issues within its preview. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci.
I would like to thank the representative of the North American region. I have taken note of the comments made by the North American representative. I would now like to give the floor to the representative of Central and South America and the Caribbean, and then we will give the Secretariat the floor. You have the floor, representative of Central and South America and the Caribbean. It seems that there might be a technical hitch. We're expecting to hear from the representative of Central and South America and the Caribbean. You have the floor. Well, while waiting for these technical problems to be solved, I would like to give the floor to the representative of Europe. So we'll hear from Europe first. You have the floor.
À la présente réunion. S'il vous plaît, laissez-moi vous saluer d'abord pour vous.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like, first of all, to congratulate you on your election and wish you every success as chair of the Plants Committee.
We tend to agree with the comments by the North American representative, and also had some concerns regarding the resolution 16.5. If we are going to try to congregate the contents of different resolutions, it's important to note that resolution 16.5 on the global strategy for plant conservation goes far beyond trees and forests and forest species. It covers so many species, so many habitats. So we cannot think of replacing that resolution by another one just on forests. So just to keep that concern clear, that we could not replace the resolution on the cooperation with the GSPC, and saying that we have to also, but we'll talk about that on the point on GSPC, but just to leave this concern about the cooperation with GSPC. Thank
you. Merci, le représentant de l'Europe. J'ai pris.
I would like to thank the representative of Europe. I've certainly taken note of your views. As I understand it, you do not see any real use in there being a resolution on CITES and forests, if I've understood you correctly. Let me now see if the representative of Central and South America and the Caribbean is able to take the floor.
Nous avons des soucis pour voir.
We seem to have some difficulty in connecting with our Plants Committee member representative for Central and South America and the Caribbean. I will ask the technical operators to see if they can solve this problem. Let me clear the list, or have the list cleared, and invite observer parties to take the floor if they have views to express on this agenda item? I see that we have a representative for Europe requesting the floor. Let me give him the floor before giving the floor to observer parties. Representative for Europe, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je crois que vous n'avez bien compris.
Thank you, Madam. You certainly did understand the purpose of my statement. We do see that a resolution on CITES and forests would be a good thing, but we do share the concerns raised by the United States and would endorse the approach proposed by the United States. And we would be interested in participating in the working group. That's the main point we wish to make. Thank you very much, sir. Could I ask whether it might now be possible to give the floor to the representative of Central and South America and the Caribbean who wished to take the floor before I give the floor to observer parties? Could the representative for Central and South America and the Caribbean be given the floor?
Les techniciens peuvent-ils me dire quel est le problème qu'il y a avec...
Could I ask the operators to tell me what the problem is with connecting this colleague? I'd like to hear from you, please.
Bon, en attendant que les problèmes soient...
Well, while we wait for all this to be sorted out, I would now like to give the floor to observer parties. Malaysia, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, distinguished delegates, Malaysia acknowledges that CITES had established formal collaborations with many international governmental organizations, such as CBD, CMS, ITTO, and IBES. We specifically understand that the objectives of this collaboration is mainly to streamline each IGO activities towards their respective mandates. And Malaysia can support this resolution as long as there are no duplications. Malaysia supports this in the view that the new proposed resolution of CITES and forests could provide a valuable collaborative framework with relevant organizations, including but not limited to CPF partners, to effectively contribute to the timely implementation of CITES provisions relevant to species and increase the resource mobilization in the implementation of CITES decisions. For example, the previous collaborations had been built had several achievements. One of them is that ITTO has incorporated the conservation of species in their criteria and indicators for sustainable forest management. Lastly, Madam Chair, Malaysia would like to express our interest to join, to be part of the working group. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci, la Malaisie, pour votre intervention.
I would like to thank Malaysia for that statement. I would now like to give the floor to Colombia. You have the floor. Thank you, Madam. Colombia would like to congratulate you on your election, and we would like to stress how important we think document 12 is. That is to say, the whole question of CITES and forests. This would provide us with a way of harmonizing the approaches of different of the conventions dealing with flora and fauna, and find a way of ensuring that we can raise funds and mobilize resources in order to deal with all of these issues. And this would be a way of ensuring that we can make scientific advances. Two, on document 12, we would like to say that we do think it's important to make a clear how we see the tie between species and forests. And what we have on page 4, C(2), which talks about the resource mobilization for activities, resolutions, and decisions of CITES that are of significance for forests. And we would like to include the word species after forests. And I would finally say that we would like to join the working group. Thank you. Thank you, Colombia. Peru has the floor. Thank you, Madam. Peru supports the document. We do think that it is very important that we draw a clear link between CITES and the conservation of forests. We do need to ensure that we strengthen the appendices for tree species. We're not just talking about tree species, but entire ecosystems. This resolution would also show links with other MEAs and biodiversity in particular. This would be a way for us to mobilize resources in order to ensure that we can have CITES activities, resolutions, and decisions implemented. Those are all of importance for the species that live in the ecosystems we call forests. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Peru, for that statement. I have made a note of your support for document 12. Chile now has the floor. Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to take this opportunity to congratulate you on the able way in which you are guiding our work and congratulate the Secretariat for all the good work done and in these hard times we're all living through. I won't take much time because the words have really been taken out of my mouth by previous speakers. I would like to express my support for what was said by the representative of Peru on this document. In Chile, we do think it is important that we move towards such a resolution because we need to ensure that there are synergies between groups that work on everything to do with the conservation of species and forests as significant ecosystems. We strongly support that continued work along such lines because we feel it is very important. Synergies, joint efforts, resource mobilization would all help us ensure that we can do our best for the conservation of species at risk. That is all I have to say for now, Madam. Thank you for giving me the floor. Thank you, Chile, for your kind words to me, as well as your statement, of which I have taken note. I would now invite committee members to take the floor. The representative of Central and South America and the Caribbean, could anyone inform me whether or not her connection has been sorted out? If not, we could perhaps hear from another representative from the region. The problem seems to have been sorted. You have the floor, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to congratulate you on the able way in which you are leading our work. I would also like to thank the Secretariat for having drafted this document, which we support. Having a resolution on CITES and forests would give us the opportunity, first of all, to raise the profile CITES has with respect to forest conservation. We all know that forests are a key ecosystem when it comes to biodiversity and ecosystem services. Many of the species that are currently listed in the CITES appendices live in such ecosystems. The resolution would also allow us to promote real synergy among conventions and help us to make the best use of the mechanisms available to us to mobilize resources in order to implement our convention. If there is a working group on this question, I would like to be a member of it. Thank you, Madam. I would like to thank the representative of Central and South America and the Caribbean. I'm delighted that you were finally able to take the floor. You had very good things to say. I would now like to give the floor to Argentina. And I would invite other observer parties to request the floor if they have a statement to make. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, first of all, for your able chairing of this meeting. I would also like to congratulate the Secretariat for all of the work done on this document. We would simply like to express our support for the statements made by a number of representatives from our region. We do think that synergies are of the utmost importance. We support this document and we would happily join a working group if one is set up. Thank you very much, Madam. I would like to thank Argentina. Thank you for your kind words. Let me ask if there are any parties that would like to take the floor. I do think that we have some clear views. Some are in favor of this resolution, others somewhat less so. I do think that a working group might allow for some detailed discussion of this subject. However, let me first of all see if anyone else would like to take the floor on this matter very quickly. If parties let me know if they have anything further to say, I can then move on to the observers and try to stick to our schedule. The United States, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to reiterate that the United States fully supports considering these issues, but given the extraordinary circumstances in which we have found ourselves in the last year or so, we think that there needs to be a very deliberative approach to considering the development of such a resolution and not a rush to submit it to COP19. And therefore, we fully support the North American intervention to develop decisions to consider this matter during the next intersessional period. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, United States, for your statement. I have taken note of your comments, and I would now like to give the floor to Germany.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is to echo what the representative of the United States of America just has said. I think the intention of the representative of the European region was not to say that this resolution is not wanted by the region. It's rather that the rush or the speed going into it is too fast. And secondly, that one of the suggestions in the document regarding GSPC and a merger of the resolution on GSPC with a new resolution on CITES and forests would not be appropriate. And this is the view of Germany as well. Thank you. So there is no, sorry to say that, there is no opposition. It's just a question of the speed. Thank you.
Thank you, Germany. Are there any further requests for the floor from parties? From observer parties before I open the floor to other observers. But first of all, I would like to stress that there is a document on the strategy, the global strategy for the conservation of plants, which will be covered under our last item. Algeria, you have the floor. Could we give the floor to Algeria, please? Or was it maybe a mistaken request for the floor? Algeria, would you like the floor? You have the floor. Thank you. First of all, I can be heard? So first of all, I'd like to thank you and congratulate you on the chairmanship and the good running of today's meeting. And we wish you every success. I'd also like to congratulate the Secretariat on the good organization. Now, on this document, for this resolution, I joined the other speakers for this resolution. It's a good idea. Thank you to the representative of Algeria. Now I think we should open the floor to observers to hear any feedback on what we have heard. So the floor is open to non-party observers. The floor is open, and I'd like to remind all other observers who wish to speak if they may speak briefly, because we have 25 minutes for the next 3 items on our agenda today. Kafim, you have the floor.
Kafim, vous pouvez vous exprimer.
Kafim, please go ahead. The chair's microphone is not on. Could operators, could you assist Kafim and see why they are unable to take the floor? Thank you.
Y a-t-il d'autres
Are there any other? I beg your pardon. I see that the representative for Central, South America and the Caribbean is requesting the floor. And as a member of the Plants Committee, I give them priority. You have the floor. Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Seeing that we are all in agreement on the substance, we all recognize that it's important to have a resolution on CITES and forests. But I think that by waiting, we will be losing. If we wait, we're letting 3 years go by, which could be beneficial in terms, especially in terms of implementing on species we've already committed to and which are in our appendices. So we could use these opportunities, and resolution would assist there. So maybe we could start with something very basic. I'm just putting this forward for everyone to consider, but we shouldn't miss this opportunity because it's not necessarily the best alternative. So maybe the Secretariat or you could help us in looking at how we could set up the mandate for the working group so that we cover that now at this time. Thank you. Thank you to the representative of Central, South America and the Caribbean. I take note of the comments we've heard from everyone, and I think that these discussions could be discussed in greater detail within the working group which will be established. So I would like to read the mandate of this working group, but before I do so, I'm going to give the floor. So we had a request from the representative of the North America region. The request has disappeared. Would you like the floor? Or should I read the mandate for the working group? I'm sorry to not be able to give the floor to Kafim. There were technical problems, but we need to keep moving with the agenda. So I shall read the mandate for the working group.
Thank you for the view. Having heard the view from the floor on this item, I would like to propose the establishment of an in-session working group shared by myself with the following mandate. A. Consider document PC 25.12 and its addendum. B. Consider the value of developing a new resolution on CITES and forest. C. Explore the pertinence of developing draft decision for consideration of that could be put forward by the Secretariat for consideration of the COP. And D. Provide any additional recommendation for the Secretariat to consider should it bring forward a draft resolution on CITES and forest. Merci. Donc voici lecture du.
So, thank you. I've read the mandate for the working group which will be established. Now, I will chair this working group, but now I would like to invite members of the committee to express their interest in joining this working group by requesting the floor. So we have the representative for North America, the representative for Europe, the representative for Central, South America and the Caribbean. So for now, for parties. I'm just requesting the interest in joining the group from members of the Plants Committee. So Plants Committee members, as I said, I have North America, Europe, and Central, South America and the Caribbean. Secretariat, could we please clear that list? And now we will work on the list for observer parties who are interested. Please request the floor. Brazil, USA, UK, Argentina, Canada, Colombia, Malaysia, Germany, Peru, Korea, Kenya, and China. Belgium, Cambodia, the representative for South America, Central South America and the Caribbean, and Kenya. It's now 2:15. We have 15 minutes left for the last 3 items on our agenda. I've read the mandate, but I have not requested your opinions on the mandate. So I think we can now remove that list. Is there any position on the mandate that I have read for this working group? Forest-based solutions. I think they are signing up. I haven't yet opened the list for observers. I forgot to request if everyone was happy with the mandate, so thank you to the observers for having withdrawn from the request for the floor. I see no request for the floor on the mandate. I think the mandate is clear to everyone and that discussions can take place in more detail within the working group. So now I would like to open the list to observers. But I need to count the number of members in the working group so we know what the maximum number of observers can be. 18, Madam Chair, says the Secretariat. Thank you. So that means we can have a maximum of 18 observers. So I'll read the list. Traffic. CSFI, HSI. Forest-based solutions. SSN. AWI. International Wood Products Association. CL. CAFIM. WWF. Forest Trends. I think that's everyone. Now I'll read up the members of the group. So we have the representative for North America, the representative for Europe, the representative for Central, South America and the Caribbean, and the representative of the same region. For the parties, we have Brazil, United States of America, United Kingdom, Argentina, Canada, Colombia, Malaysia, Germany, Peru, Korea, Kenya, China, Belgium, and Cambodia. So for observers, we have traffic, CSFI, HSI, SSN, Forest-Based Solutions, AWI, International Wood Products Association, CIEL, CAFIM, WWF, and Forest Trends. So that is the list of the members of the working group which has been established. I will let you know at the right moment the working methods, the electronic working methods, and the time and date. So I now conclude this item of our agenda. We have 10 minutes in which to cover items 8, 30 and 13. So now I'll move on to item 8 of the agenda item, which covers tree species program for CITES, and I give the floor to the Secretariat.
Chair, document 25.8 and its addendum, report on the implementation of decisions 1814 to 1817 concerning progress with the CITES tree species program and the feedback that received from parties and the Plants Committee on its implementation. In the addendum, Secretariat invites the Plants Committee to take note of document PC 25.8 and its addendum and provide recommendations as appropriate to the Secretariat and the Standing Committee based on the Secretariat's report. It also invites the Committee to consider whether decision 1814 and 1815 have been implemented, and if that were the case, to recommend that these decisions be deleted at COP19. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I thank the Secretariat for this introduction. I will now give the floor to members of the committee in order to see the manner for proceeding so that we can draw up the recommendations for the Secretariat and the Standing Committee at its 74th meeting in order to see if decisions 1814 and 1815 have been implemented. So the floor is open to members of the committee. I would give the floor to the representative of the North America region.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The North American region appreciates the work of the Secretariat, the Plants Committee Chair, and members and alternate members of the committee in compiling the information included in document PC 25, document 8, and the addendum. We applaud the tremendous work accomplished under the ITTO CITES program on tree species and the CITES tree species program in a number of relevant areas, including supporting sustainable management of CITES listed tree species, promoting legal and traceable harvest and international trade in these species, and strengthening forest governance. We support noting document PC 25, Doc 8, and the addendum, and agree that the decisions 18.14 and 18.15 have been implemented and can be recommended for deletion at the 19th meeting of the Conference of the Parties. We also believe that the Secretariat should be requested to continue to monitor the implementation of the CTSP and the projects it supports. to assess whether the CTSP's small grants mechanism is efficient and achieves the desired aims, or if additional or alternative methods should be considered in the future. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you to the representative for North America region. I now give the floor to the representative of the Central, South America and the Caribbean region. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. First of all, we'd like to thank the Secretariat for drawing up this document, which allows us to recognize the progress made by the project. And we'd like to say that the decisions which show which decisions have been implemented. It's important to highlight that in the region for Central America, South America and the Caribbean, there is a wealth of tree species listed in Appendix 2. We've got rosewood, very many trees in this list. So we see that it is relevant to promote the continuity of this project and the potential to consider new species and parties that can take part in this program so that we can mobilize greater resources, in particular build capacity for identification, population assessments, and the drawing up of and the making of NDFs, traceability, because these are key to meet the pillars for the implementation of CITES. So we think it is timely to have a proposal for a decision which will allow for the continuity of the program and its strengthening, and this could be worked on within the framework of this proposed working group. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you to the representative for Central, South America and the Caribbean. I now give the floor to the representative of the Asia region.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We thank the Secretariat for preparing the documents. Thanks to AU and Secretariat providing financial assistance in conserving and managing the Aquilaria and Dalbergia species for Asian countries, Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Cambodia. The 4 countries have very well implemented the CTSC project under circumstance the global pandemic. We also support the revised recommendation and support for the working group. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Si la représentante de la.
So, if the representative, thank you to the representative of Asia, and now give the floor to the representative for the Africa region.
Thank you very much, Chair. And again, I joined the previous speakers in thanking the Secretariat for putting this document together. African states have been beneficiaries of the tree species program. And in the short time that we've had it implemented, we've seen a lot of positive outcomes. And just to highlight a few, this includes a lot of data that has been generated on the status of the species of concern, which is very important for decision making. We've also seen a lot of enhanced collaboration and coordination within the region, especially for multidisciplinary or multi-country projects. And in addition, we've seen a lot of capacity building, and there's been a lot of experience exchange within the region. I do believe that with the challenges of COVID inhibiting much of the implementation on time, that a working group will be very beneficial. as well as extending the scope maybe to other species that were not considered. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you to the representative for the Africa region, the representative for Central, South America and the Caribbean. You have the floor. Thank you very much. To start, I would like to congratulate you on how well you are managing this meeting, and I'd like to thank the Secretariat for their assistance. I would also like to join in what was said by my colleagues from various regions and members of the Plants Committee on the importance of CITES tree species program, in particular in my region, and I would like to refer to Central America, where we have tri-national projects which are supporting countries with the review of significant trade, such as Nicaragua, and we're also helping with making NDFs. For us as representatives, it's very important to have a continuation of this program and to strengthen it. As a member of the committee, I would like to join in requesting that we have a working group which draws up a decision for the Standing Committee to continue this program, because it has greatly contributed for the protection of tree species in our region. Thank you. Thank you to the representative of the region Central, South America and the Caribbean. Now, before I open the floor to the representative from Europe, I'd like to turn to the Secretariat, because it is now 3:30. We have just 1 minute left, Secretariat.
Yes, Madam Chair, I think we have to conclude our business of the day. Right now, I don't think we can exceed the allocated time.
D'accord. Je voulais donc me rassurer, juste...
If we could just have a few more minutes from the interpreters. The interpreters would like to say yes, we will continue. And we'll continue the debate tomorrow, says the chair. Thank you for having been so cooperative here at my baptism of fire. And tomorrow we will start with this item. My apologies to members of the committee who haven't been able to speak yet, as well as observer parties and the observers. But tomorrow we will continue on this item 8, and then we'll cover 30 and 13 as well. So, Secretariat, I give you the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think you've done extremely well, and you had a very, very important, very considerable work planning for today, which you nearly completed, which is very well done. Now I hope that we can see each other tomorrow and continue working in the same vein, at the same speed and the same efficiency as you've proven to be capable of doing now. Thank you.
Merci, Secretariat.
Thank you to the Secretariat. And Secretariat, members of the Plants Committee, observer parties and other observers, I would like to say see you tomorrow, and let's hope we can continue working tomorrow as well as we have today. Thank you and goodbye.